Hi, I'm Gail Taylor. How exciting is this? I get to join you wherever you are in the world from my studio here in Canada. How many of you have been so busy that you felt overwhelmed? Do you get to choose the activities you embrace versus the ones that are thrown at you by external entities? A big part of success is as simple as taking control of time management. This one area can influence your happiness, your career, your relationships, and your stress levels. Studies have found over three in five adults are too busy to stop and enjoy their lives. Like, how sad is that? There's three pillars to time management that changed my life. And I'll share with you a few stories from my upcoming book on how and why. I'm hoping you'll leave here with some tangible strategies. I'm about to give you that emotional leverage, the buy-in that you need to take basic tools and use them to level up. To understand my context, I'll share a bit of my journey. Growing up, I had a normal life. I was one of six, had happily married parents, spent my childhood in a small town. Then my dad died when I was 12. And the string holding us together began to unravel. My memories of him include laughter, tears, watching hockey games together. Did I mention I'm Canadian? But after his death, I became a master in denial. I mean, talk about trauma. I told myself he hadn't died. He was taking a job with the government as a spy and had to fake his death to save the world for 2 years. I kept him alive for 2 years. Meanwhile, my mother reveals that we had 3 months to evacuate our home and we'd be moving to a not so nearby city. So goodbye to small town living, hello to the hustle bustle of the big city. Unfortunately, I turned to drugs, alcohol, and reckless behavior. I dove straight into a downward spiral, and I didn't come up for air for well over a decade, closer to 2 decades before I was all the way out. My mom went to bed early, struggling with her mental and physical exhaustion. So most nights I snuck out of the house. I hitchhiked to a seedier part of the city, met up with older kids. We had no supervision, so we just get high and party until the early hours, and then I'd hitchhike back home. I mean, and this was before my 13th birthday. I was a disaster. And then, about 10 years later, I woke up one morning, I looked around at the mess I made, not just in my room, in my soul, and I thought, there's gotta be more to life than this. And that tiny bit of hope sparked a fire. It sparked a fire within me, and I made the conscious decision to change the trajectory of my life. With that backdrop, guys, life doesn't always deal the cards you hope for. You all have your own version of my story. I mean, sometimes we find ourselves in situations we might not have planned for or even wanted. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you handle it. Here's what happened when I mastered time management. I went from being a high school dropout to a successful business person. Today I have an MBA from Queen's University, an analyst designation from Wharton. I completed executive training at Harvard, and I also completed all the education required to become a financial advisor, which I did for 25 years. I reached a level where I was managing $130 million and earning an income in the top 5% of income earners in North America. I also simultaneously studied personal growth and peak performance for over 40 years. Then my life took another shift. At age 58, I took my first piano lesson. Music started to flood in my life. I was hooked. I started to read about how music and your brain work in tandem. You might think you're just listening to your favorite song, but research has found that your brain's working overtime. Music makes you smarter, it improves your memory, and it produces and releases the hormones you need to function. At age 61, I decided to retire early, sell my practice, and study music full time. I hired private teachers. I enrolled in Berklee School of Music online, learning bass guitar, piano, ear training, songwriting. I loved it so much that after a couple of years, I thought, maybe I'll reinvent myself as a musician. So many folks told me that this story inspired them to pursue something they'd always wanted to do but hadn't tried. So I thought, whoa, maybe it's time to come out of retirement, become a keynote speaker, a songwriter, and use my music and my personal stories to help people design and live their best lives. And now, sitting here, I think, wow, what a wonderful place to be in my journey. But I didn't end up here by accident. I created it. I created it, and I implore you to set those lofty goals and follow through on them. I open this speech with a question. How many of you have been so busy that you felt overwhelmed? You're not alone. Heck, I hear it often from my friends, from work colleagues, but the truth is, you're in charge of your life and how busy it is. The first pillar of time management is a morning routine. Time management starts when you wake up. Science shows that establishing a morning routine makes you happier, it reduces stress, and it enhances your productivity. Like the Rascal song, it's a beautiful morning. Many of the most successful people in the world have morning routines that they stick to. Oprah has coffee, meditates, and exercises before she starts her day. Twitter founder Jack Dempsey also loves a cup of coffee and a workout in the morning. What your morning routine looks like is up to you. Personally, I get up every morning between 4 and 5. I have a few cups of coffee. I watch an inspirational show and I head to the gym. A real benefit of establishing a morning routine is using this time to be more mindful about how you'll spend your time for the rest of the day and even the week. The second pillar, and my Achilles heel, is the tendency to underestimate the time you need to complete a task. It's called the planning fallacy. When we underestimate the time a task will take, we end up believing we have more time than we do. And this can result in crisis management with a ton of stress and missed opportunities. So when you're planning your day or week, be realistic. Be realistic on how much time something will take. And because we have more power over our schedule than you may realize, you can prioritize what you love and you can live in flow state. After the gym, I head home to my music studio here and I spend the first 3 hours focusing on production. I set a timer for 30 minutes. In between, I have a quick glass of water or a little walk. Flow state happens when you become completely immersed in what you're doing or working on. You simply lose track of time because your passion and your work intersect. One of the psychologists who popularized the idea of flow state described it as focus that once it becomes intense, it leads to a sense of ecstasy, a sense of clarity. You know exactly what you want to do from one moment to the other, and you get immediate feedback. So who experiences flow states? Well, typically people who have to focus, chess players, surgeons, mountain climbers, and ballet dancers. But you can get into flow state just by giving your full attention to something you're passionate about. You probably experienced it already, you just hadn't given it a name. When you plan your days carefully and you focus on what matters most, you free up time to truly dive into the things that you love. And finding the zone, the flow state, doesn't happen when you're just checking things off a to-do list. It's about chasing that passion. When your schedule's filled with things that excite you, well, the to-do list feels less like a burden and more like an opportunity. Everything gets done more quickly and it feels far more fulfilling. You become more productive. There was a 10-year study by McKinsey, and they found that executives who get into flow state are 500% more productive. 500%. The third and last pillar is the fourth quadrant method by Stephen Covey. Imagine all of a sudden nothing's time sensitive. This is about reducing stress and eliminating crisis management, bringing life full of fun, enjoyment, being in the moment, but it requires structure. I mean, 25 years as a financial advisor, and before I attended a full day seminar by Stephen, I lived in a constant state of crisis management. I didn't like my behaviors. Heck, I had a huge assistant turnover. I made people cry, and I often went home drained. But Stephen's four quadrant model changed everything. It's designed to help you determine where and when to direct your focus. Quadrant 1 is urgent and important. Quadrant 2, not urgent and important. I mean, these tasks are important, but they're not pressing. You're free of time-bound stress. I try to do 70% plus of my day here. And it's so easy to go into that flow state for long periods of time. Quadrant 3, urgent and not important. Quadrant 4, not urgent and not important, like scrolling through social media. I knew I wanted to live in quadrant 2. That's where I could be relaxed, I could be focused, I could be engaged. And now I've been living there for years. It's great. You're always available for last minute opportunities. And you really do spend your time in the moment, right? That's what makes the production and the quality improve. But to shift from my crisis management mode to here, I needed tools. So I invented a few. First one, live and work on purpose. You know, when you think about it, your work makes up half of your waking hours. But to shift from my crisis management mode to here, I needed some major tools. So the first tool, live and work on purpose. When you think about it, your work makes up almost half your waking hours, which means our work lives are just as important as our personal lives. Choose a role you want. Second, I learned to set deadlines several days ahead of their actual due date. This allowed me to better handle time-sensitive tasks or curveballs that came at me. Third, I adjusted my actions to live with the motto, how you do anything is how you do everything. So I became all in all areas of my life. Everything went into the quadrants. You're designing your life. Fourth, arriving early, ideally about 15 minutes ahead of scheduled meetings. This allows you to be there on time when you hit traffic or detours or that last minute phone call. Fifth, remember that other people don't always arrive early or even on time. I always kept 15 to 30 minutes before and after an appointment free from anything time sensitive. This talk was all about ways to design your own life using morning structure, flow state, and Stephen Covey's four quadrants. And I included a few tools that I created to stay in quadrant 2. It's not rocket science, and some of you had already heard all the material I covered, or a lot of it. The only real difference I see between successful people and not so successful is follow through. It's not knowledge, it's implementation. Remember, if you always stay uncomfortably busy, you'll always be uncomfortably busy. You don't have to settle on the status quo. Leveling up how you manage your time to create your dream life is within your grasp. Getting out of the too busy crisis management state, it reduces stress and it leaves the door wide open for the next opportunity. Embrace your life, folks. The sky's the limit. And as Miles Davis says, time isn't the main thing, it's the only thing. So moving forward, don't be afraid to take a lot more control of your time. It's a game changer. Thank you.